Today we have positive vibes. Believe in yourself a little more. Well, first of all, in order for you to understand what I'm getting ready to share about my feelings on this topic, I want you, as I describe everything that I'm about to describe, to think that I believe that believing in myself a little more, or believing in myself in general, is about understanding my authority. My authority as a friend, my authority as a worker, my authority as a consumer, my authority. If you keep that in the back of your mind, everything else I'm getting ready to say is going to make sense. It'll be easy to follow. Even if you think I'm not addressing the topic, believing in myself, if you think about me coming from the perspective of authority, should help you keep that clear in your mind. This one is super simple, yet super powerful. I find that when I started taking on things that I considered were challenging, I could say that was my version of believing in myself a little more. The reason being, I was usually that person who, once I thought about something and I made a decision on it, very seldom did I ever change my mind. If I say something like, I don't like peanut butter, then I don't like anything peanut butter, period. But then I discovered that there are certain items with peanut butter that when frozen, I can like it. And then I look at it as, I gotta believe in my taste bud just a little more. Now, when it comes to broader topics, such as work, for instance, I remember that my least favorite thing to do at work had to do with conflict resolution. And it had to do with customer service. Like, if you're not on par with the policy, then I'm not afraid of being someone who likes to honor the policy. I like for there to be rules to be respected. That's how I was in school. That's how I was raised to be. But as an adult, I have discovered that, especially when you're in a business, it's in the best interest to err on the side of the customer even when they're wrong. And that's something I just never understood, because I felt like if I'm bending the rules here, then that means rules are bendable everywhere. Who's to say that, say, if you commit something that is atrociously not legal, then you should be able to get away with it because rules can be bent. The law can be bent. I like consistency. I like to see the world as simply black or white. And I do that for the sake of simplicity. That's not to say I deny that there exists nuance in the world. When it comes to nuance, what you do is you go through the process of determining this unprecedented issue and figure out how we are going to ultimately proceed from here on out. An issue remains nuance, in my eyes, when it doesn't have a definition, when it hasn't been resolved. Once something has been resolved, it has been resolved to where it will hang out on either be positive or negative. No gray fucking area. And if you wonder why I'm a person who does not struggle with confidence, that's a good place to start. Learn to commit to something. Commit to a side. And that is why I cannot, for instance, in politics, choose one of the two choices that we have under this weird partisan determination that we have. It is impossible for one individual to represent all of my values and to condemn the things that I believe should be condemned. Therefore, just because I cannot correspond to one side, because neither satisfy my full beliefs, what I do is I do not get involved with any. It is not due to a lack of definition of who I am, what I like, what I don't like, what I value, what I don't value, what I condemn, and what I don't condemn. It's It is impractical for an individual who isn't myself to do that. So until I see the party, I guess, that represents me as if we were two drops of water, then I cannot choose you. As opposed to hanging out in the gray area or on the blue side or the red side, which they try to make our choices, then what I do is I pull out of the matter entirely. That simple. When I think of believing in myself in a situation like that, I'm like, here's what I'm gonna do. I know that I'm a person who likes to be obedient with rules, but if this person is not being too unreasonable, then sure, I will make the accommodation myself. But if it's something that to me, it just exceeds the realm of what's acceptable to me and my logic, that's when I'll escalate it and let someone else make the call instead. Whether they go against my judgment or support it, I would rather just pass it off to someone else. And the reason I do that is because I know how I like to be. I know how I was raised to be. I know what would make my mom proud, which is she would be proud that I'm still maintaining the skill that was inculcated onto me, which is, hey, learn to respect the rules and instructions and don't try to be stupid to get away with something. That's what would make her proud. I want to continue that. If something is going to conflict with my value, that's when I pass it off to someone else. And that's why I like to be honest with myself and I accept that I would not be successful in a position of management of someone else's company. If I were my own company, my own manager, if I had my own shop and stuff, shit, I know exactly how I would run it. Even if I don't make a lot of money or I don't make a lot of money quickly, I don't care. We started with values, we started with rules, we are going to maintain it. And the only time I can see myself breaking a rule is if I'm compensated for my own fuck up. Like we did something wrong, it was not the customer's fault, we can accommodate that. But you trying to act like a child to get something because you think that you're entitled to it, that's when I have problems. Imagine if I decided to live my life like that. Let me activate my Karen cheat code and get a free car because I can argue my way, bully these people into giving me a free car, something like that. Or if you need service, let me bully my way into getting a discount. Let me bully my way into getting something for free. I just can't be like that. Like my honor, my manners, my self-respect, and by extension the respect I feel like I owe those who raised me and educated me, simply doesn't allow it. And I think that living with that pride is important. I feel like that's where I get my sense of purpose in life. If I'm not gonna have kids, then at least I can respect the lessons that were inculcated onto me, and I can at least encourage others to be the same. Anyone who's under my mentorship, that's how we're gonna do things. I want people to be confident in doing what's right and standing your ground. And the other ways that I never believed in myself was anytime I would embark on something. I have told you guys that as a kid, I had commitment problems. I was on the Girl Scouts. I never made it to any of the excursions because I just had anxiety about being away from home and my mom not being one of my chaperones. I never made it to any of the bigger activities, bigger projects. All I did was the Saturday reunions, which were, I think it was either once every 2 Saturdays or it was once a month. It was on Saturdays. And selling the cookies. That was about it. And to sell the cookies, I would try to sell them amongst my relatives. It's not like I could go out there in the neighborhood and march around showing my merchandise or strategically setting up my own little kiosk somewhere. I couldn't do that at all. And that's, I guess, when I discovered that I couldn't be aggressive about trying to get things sold. I wanted for people to approach me because they had a genuine interest in something and I just so happened to have it, and I followed my gut and I showed it to them and they would be able to pick it up. Like one time I literally sold the sweater I was wearing. I happened to always wear like a t-shirt underneath my sweaters, and someone complimented me on it and she was telling me about how she collects them but the color I was wearing happened to be a color she didn't have, but she wanted. And I'm like, oh, you want it? Well, originally this cost me like $10. How about if you give me $4 for it, since I have worn it a handful of times? Something like that. See what I mean? I'm an incidental seller, you could say. I never thought I could sell things to people. I never thought that people would want to buy from me. But not only am I good at fundraisers, but I'm also good at those kinds of sales where I can feel the impulse to trade with someone, even if the value of it is higher than what I'm letting it go for. You could say that's when I began to believe in myself a tad bit more. When it comes to like the world of business and academics, I began believing in myself the first time I saw I had an A in math in high school. That's when I said, oh, actually, I'm not bad at numbers. I guess I just gotta play with the psychology of whoever's teaching me and get them to teach me based off my learning style. And I found that the wordier the teacher was, the better. I just needed them to explain everything. Like, how did you get to this number? Why are you deciding to divide? Why are you deciding to borrow this number from somewhere else? Blah, blah, blah. Just the more detail you give, the better. And there are some people who think they're so good at this, so smart at this, that they prefer for the teacher to not say too much. I'm the opposite. To me, there's never too much information. And that, I can say, is what helps me believe in myself a little bit more. Just because I don't succeed with one person, one resource, one place, one source, one style, one recipe, or one trainer at work, one manager, it doesn't mean that I'm condemned to failure. I just gotta believe in myself, confront the adversity, and take it from there. I will win sometimes, I won't win sometimes. But what matters is the journey that I went through it. And I was never good at that. I never had this outlook. I never had this attitude. I just thought a little bit of adversity could intimidate me. And although I could be up for any challenge, there were some challenges that I was just not willing to partake. And anything that had to do with a conflict involving a person, those I seem to always throw in the towel. And the other kinds of adversity, for some reason, I was always willing to go against it and fight for as long as possible, as long as needed. But with people, I just never could. But now I find that I'm better at fighting against people than I am at maintaining a steady flow with things, with objects, with tasks. Now I have a better time arguing with people because I know that I'm going to win pretty much every argument I get into. I'm believing in myself. Well, you guys, I hope that made sense, the way that I broke this topic down. It was kind of difficult to approach it because of how simple and basic it was. So I was hoping that I could kind of establish the things that I can think of where I could have used having more faith in myself, but I didn't. And now that those days of me lacking faith in myself are gone, what changed? What was different? And yeah, that was pretty much it. Okay, bye.